Hello there, this is the first video for the Maya course in the M3DS Academy. What you see before you is the view of when you open up Maya. So the first thing we have are a lot of options on the above side here. We'll get into most of these as the course moves on. There's the outliner on the left side, which is where everything is located that we will add into the scene. We have the time slider for the animation that we'll be doing even in this first class. And then on the right side, we have some other options that we'll see along as well. So first things first, whenever you start learning a new software, you're going to have to learn how to navigate in that software. So the way we navigate in Maya is by holding the Alt key on the keyboard and using the mouse buttons. For example, the left mouse button is going to be able to help us rotate around the canvas. This is the viewport, this is the grid, and we navigate right now around the canvas. While holding the left Alt and the right mouse button, we will be able to zoom in and out where we are focused on. While as we use the left Alt and the middle mouse button, we can pan around or move into dimensions. So we only move into axis from the where the camera is located. Speaking of axes, the axes are these. You can see them here. We have the 3 dimensions: the X, the Y, and the Z. They all have a plus and a minus. So if the X is pointing on the right side, that means that's the plus for that axis, and this will be minus X. Whereas this one is plus Z and minus Z. Up is plus Y, and below is minus Y. So if you want to create something, let's just start with primitives. We can there are multiple places where we can find them. The most basic one is right here on the top shelf. Here we have the most basic primitives. Like if I just click on the sphere here, it's gonna create a sphere in the middle of the canvas, and with using the navigation tools, I'm gonna be able to rotate around it, zoom into it, and even move it to the side to see what it looks like from behind. To delete an object we just simply press the delete key on the keyboard, and that deletes the selected mesh, or in this case the primitive. We can also create a lot of things like cubes, very simple as well. We also have cylinders right here. We have a cone, which is basically a cylinder from one side. We learned this in math. And we have a torus here. Torus has the shape of a donut. We also have a plane, which is really good because it has only one side and the other is nothing. Why is it black? This is how all of the shapes look from within. So if the planes look black, or these little cubes that are called planes look black and not gray, they're from the wrong side. Keep that in mind. I'm just going to delete that and create a simple little cube. So what do we do if we, for example, we get lost somewhere in space in Maya and we can't find our cube? So the first thing you can do is select things here in the outliner, and we know this is our cube, so I can just press it, and then when I'm pressed on it, I have it selected. I can just press the F key on the keyboard and it automatically focuses on the sub-object that we have selected. For example, this case, the cube. Some other ways we can create these these models, these simple shapes, is through the create menu. So if we press on the create, then we move lower the second option, the polygon primitives. We have them here as well, along with some additional ones like the pyramid, prism, pipe, helix, gear, and so on and so on. We can create them from there. Let's just make one. Let's use the helix. I think it's a very interesting shape. There's a third way we can do this, which is the fastest way you can make something. And if you hold shift and right click, there's going to be a menu that opens up, and while holding shift and right click you can point to something and that will be created. You have the options here and the most used ones over here. For example, we have the cylinder, and if I just let go on the right mouse button, you can let go of the shift as well, press F to focus, and we'll see the cylinder here as well. Okay, so those are some multiple ways to create something. So this is one camera and one way we can look at things in Maya. If we want to look like from this angle, but perfectly straight from the center of it, we don't have to align it like this. We can just press the space button, and if we press the space button, we open up this menu with multiple views, which we can just change to any one of them, and underneath each one there's a name of what it is. Like, for example, right now we've been using the perspective view, and we can just see it right there. As a default, we have the side view, one of the side views at least. We have the front view and top view. If we want to change, for example, to the top view, I can just press space again while I'm pointing on that window, and it just opens up. Here we can't move with the left mouse button and the alt because it's not three-dimensional, it just looks from the top. However, we can move with the alt and the middle mouse button everywhere, and we can also zoom in with the alt and right mouse button. Speaking of zooming in, we can also zoom in and out with the mouse wheel as well. Keep that in mind, but however, keep that in mind that it also snaps, while as moving with the alt and right mouse button, it is fairly smooth. What can we do now? We can try to manipulate the object. How can we manipulate? The most basics are some keys on the shortcut where we can move it, which is the most basic one. How can we do that? We can press W on the keyboard, and we have a couple of arrows here pointing in different directions. You can see that they mimic the axis over here that we had. For example, the red one is the X, and it moves along only the X side. So if I press on the object, we can select them while holding the left mouse button and dragging over, or we can simply just click on the object. So we can move it along the X-axis, along the Z-axis, and the Y-axis. These move along when holding the arrow key. It only moves in that one direction, and the negative or the opposite way of the same thing as well. We can move objects with two axes at the same time. For example, let's just say I want to move on the this axis, the X-axis and the Z-axis as well. So all I have to do is press this little cube here, sorry, not cube, square, between the two arrows, and it will allow me to move that in only those two directions. So in only those two axes we can move while holding these squares. Same thing happens if I want to use the Y and the X. It's gonna move only there. We can move in all three axes at the same time while holding it in the middle, but this is not really useful because in many cases it will be misplaced. Like if you want to place it in the center and then you rotate, and it's gonna be moved and you can't really tell. So these are not very not often used. The most used are the single arrows or maybe sometimes the squares. Another useful option, so if let's just say I want to remove these arrows and not have them here, I can just press the Q button on the keyboard. What is the Q button? The Q button is basically the selection. It allows us to select things. So if we have any thing else opened up and we just press the Q button, and it changes to the select menu, let's just say. So you can also see them here on the left side. The first one is the Q, the simple arrow for selection. W, here we have the move, and when I press the next button next to it, the E, we have the rotate. So the rotate works exactly the same as the move. We have three axes, only they're not arrows, they're little circles. If I press and hold along the blue axis, that is the Z one, it's going to rotate in that direction. You can move in the X as well as the Y. The third thing we're going to learn is scale, and scale is on the button R. So if I press the button R, we're going to have these little cubes here, similar to the arrows. And what we can do is we can just scale the object or make it, it just stretches the object. Like for example, if I press here and hold, it's gonna stretch it out and move it to it that way. Here, if I use the red arrow, I'm gonna stretch it in that way, as well as in the in the Z axis. But what if I want to scale it with all three? Why do we scale it with all three? We do it mainly because we want to scale and not ruin the object. Like for example, if we can make it very 2D and it's not what we want to do. So in Maya you can go back with just the Z or Control Z to go back in time with the multiple of the options that you have made. So to go forward, we can press the Shift Z and it takes everything back. So what I will try to show you is, if we don't want to ruin, we want to make it bigger. For example, we want to make the cylinder bigger, but we don't want it to lose the shape that it has. We don't want to use all three one by one, because it's never going to be perfect. What we want to do is mainly we want to use the square in the middle, so that automatically scales it in all three axes the same size. Next thing we have is the modes. So there are different modes, so we can move things in Maya, and different things how are made. For example, I'm going to create a simple cube. So create a cube. We have, what is this cube made out of, right? It's right now it's an object. We always see is just the object. So if I want to change to something else, I can just hold the right mouse button and there's another menu that pops up and opens up, and here we have the object mode, edge mode, vertex mode, and face mode. Those are the most important for today's lesson. The object mode is what we're using right now, since we're moving and deforming the whole object. But these things are made out of these three things: vertices, edges, and faces. Vertices are these little dots in space that exist and that we can manipulate and change the shape of the object. We'll see in a little bit. And the vertices are the dots that are, like I said, in space, and if we connect two of these dots, they're connected with an edge. So what are edges? Edges are the lines that are holding the two vertices. And if we connect 4 vertices with 4 edges, we're gonna get a face. So this right here is a face. We can select any face we want. We can select any vertex we want. And we can select any edge we want. And we can, the beautiful part about this is we can use the move, rotate, and scale tool to deform the object and change its shape to anything we want. So if I press the W key, I select the vertex, for example this one, and I move it, you see that it changes the whole shape of the box, of the cube. And we can do it with anything we want. For example, I can select this here edge and I can move it along these 2 axes and move it anywhere. And it's very powerful. It's what makes this software very powerful. And we can just select this face, for example, and move the whole face. So when I move the face, it also moves the edges and the vertices as well. And we can make any shape we want. Okay, so I'm gonna delete that object and create a new cube here to show you something else. I'm gonna press F to focus on it and activate my move tool. You see these lines here? This is the grid that is displayed. Like, this is the center of everything in Maya, let's just say. And if I move it, it moves smoothly, right? But if let's just say I want to make it precisely on this line, it's very hard to get it from just doing it by hand. But what we can use is a shortcut. It is the X key. So if I click and hold the X key and move the object, it's gonna snap in the middle of those lines. So X is used to snap to the grid. Let's remember that one. It's very useful. Another option that we will learn today is, let's just use it with the face. So if I select this face, for example, I can make an extrude. What is an extrude? It basically makes, if I pull it up, you see there's nothing here, but if I extrude it up, it's gonna create a new face and 4 other faces on the side that are attached to these previous ones. It's best to show you by example. There's 2 ways we can extrude. One is while holding shift, right click, and we have this here extrude. We see this whole menu of things we're going to learn in the future. So we can use this extrude here face and press and let it go, and there's this new menu that opens up, and I can just pull it up and see what it is, right? I can now move it, but this is what I meant, the 4 new faces connected to the previous ones, and the face we extruded, we moved it up. The other way to extrude things is with while holding the shift key. So if I have the move tool, for example, and I hold the shift key and then I click and drag along, you can even see on the screen it says extrude. So if I hold the shift key and click and move one of the axes, the arrows for the axis, it's gonna make an extrude in that direction. So I can extrude once and again and again and again and so on and so on. Something that we use to make precise movements is the J key. So for example, if I want to rotate this square, this cube, and rotate it for exactly 15 degrees, right now it rotates smoothly, and I'm gonna press Z to go back. And if I hold the J key on your keyboard and start rotating, we're gonna see it snaps for 15 degrees. So every 15 degrees it snaps to the side. What can that be used for? That can be used while extruding. For example, if I press on this face and I extrude while holding shift and J at the same time, it's gonna extrude the same size as the cube is before. And how can we do, what can we do with this? We can do a lot of things. Like, for example, let's just create a little Tetris Tetris shapes and a little Tetris game. Let's just say we'll animate them as well in a little while. So the basic shape will be, let's just say I select this face, press the move button, hold the shift and J key and move to the side. There's I'll make one more, and I'll select this face, hold shift and J and move upwards, then just create here this face as well, shift J, move downwards. And if I press the Q key to activate the select mode, then I press right, and I always want to move to object mode if I want to edit the object or something else, right? If I want to stop being in any other mode, whether that's vertex. So if I'm moving these vertices and I'm done moving the vertices, we always want to go back to the object mode. Let's just quickly create one more cube. I'm gonna press the cube button, move it to the side, but I'm gonna hold the X key for snapping. I'm gonna move it. It doesn't always work it always works not only on these axes on the grid that we see, but it works not only in X and Y and the Z, but also works on the Y. So if I hold the X, it's gonna snap down as well. And we populated this place as well. Now I'm gonna change to the face mode, move this face while extruding it with the J key to here. Okay, now to make a duplicate of something, if we want to use the same thing, for example, I want to use this here over here to fill this space as well, I can just shift D. So shift D is making a duplicate. We can see in the outliner, I'm going to go back with the Z ones. If I have this selected, this cube, and I press shift D, it's going to create a duplicate, and it doesn't move it. It's literally in the same place as it was previously. So I'm just gonna hold the X button, move it to the left and move it up twice. And now with this way of selecting, I'm gonna select all of the objects. We can see all of them are blue and they're all selected. I can select all of them and see that there are 3 pieces here. So let's just quickly make some more pieces. Okay, I'm gonna create a new square or a new cube, move it to the side, move it lower. Then I'm gonna go to face mode, click on the top face, shift J, extrude it up once, let go, Shift J, extrude it again, Shift J, extrude it again. Then I'm gonna make a duplicate of this and move it to the side. And why not put it higher? Now I can move this shape here with X as well to here, but before that I'm gonna make a duplicate. Make a duplicate, move it to the side, and then rotate it. While I'm rotating, I'm gonna hold the J key so that it rotates and snaps every 15 degrees. And in this case, it snaps to 90 degrees. And now I'm gonna fill this space as well. Can I use something else here? I wanna make 3 cubes. I don't have one of those, so I'm gonna shift right click, create a cube, move it up while holding the X, change to face mode, and extrude, holding J once and then again. Okay. And here we're gonna fulfill this place as well with a little more. I'm gonna use this shape once again, duplicate with Shift D, hold X to put it up, push it up, face mode, extrude to the back, and then I'm gonna use this one here. These two, I'm gonna select them at the same time. We select multiple things while holding the Shift key, and then with Shift J I'm gonna extrude them down at the same time. Okay, and we create 2 more cubes to fulfill the leftover spaces. Okay? Make a duplicate and move it to the side as well. I can select all of them, see multiple choices, and we can also select them one by one in the outliner to see the shape that they have. Okay. So next thing, I'm gonna select this object here and show you something on the right side. Here is the channel box, and in the channel box we have the transformation settings for the selected object. We have the translate, which is basically the move, where we moved it and how much we moved it for. We have the rotation and the scale as well. So every object is going to be different. For example, the original one that I'm going to press, because we didn't move it at all, we just extruded it, it's going to have all zeros, right? Except for scales. The normal for scales is 1. If I press this one here, because we moved it to the right and one lower, it's going to have a -1 and a 1. And this one here also has the same, it has a 3 and a -1, and we also rotated it, so it has a 90-degree rotation. Okay, so we can animate these objects. Let's just say we want to make a little animation for like a Tetris game. So what we're gonna want to do is first remember the location that they're in right now. Like I said, each one has different transformations, so each one's going to be different. But if we want all of them to have sorry, I moved this by accidentally. So if we want all of them to have the same location, so it's easier for us to remember this specific location for each object, what we can do is we select all of them and go to modify, freeze transformations. It's gonna make, if you can see here on translate x1, translate y -1, it's gonna change them both to 0. So now all of the objects have the same transformations. Basically it has all zeros for translate and rotate, but it has 1s for scale. So what we do now is we want this to be the final position where they're all going to land, right? So if we want all of them to land, we can just move them first. And let's just say I want let's just say I want this one to be the last one that falls. So I'm gonna animate it last. So I want this one to fall first. I'm gonna move it up and press the S key on the keyboard. What S key does is it locks the animation here. So it you can see this line right here and these red cubes on the right side in the channel box. That means that this specific object on this specific frame is gonna be at this specific location. And let's just do it for the rest, right? So I don't want them all to fall at the same time. So I want them all to fall a little bit after each one. So what we're going to do first is we're going to firstly move the frame and then move the object, and then press the S key, and now this is the specific transformation for that object on this frame. Gonna change the object, change the frame to number 10, move it up, press the S key. So I'm gonna do the same for the rest of them. This one as well. I made these two start falling at the same time. That's okay. And that's the last one. So what we want to do afterwards is we want, let's just say on frame 50, I want them all to be at the starting position. So I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to change the transformations to 0. That's going to immediately change all of them back to their original position. And I'll select all of them and press the S key so that we know that that's there. So in the first frame, they're all here, and we'll see if we move the slider, how it's going to animate. They're all going to slowly start falling down. Right, we can also play it in the animation on the bottom right side. If I just press play, that's going to be too fast. We're going to change the settings here. In the settings, we can move to lower. So how are we going to do that? This little running man right here, we're going to press it. It says animation preferences. Press it, and we have the frame rate of 24 frames per second. That's okay. We're going to go down and change the playback speed from play every frame to 24 FPS times 1, and then save. And if we play it now, it's gonna be normal animation. Okay, that is it for today.